On the 6th of August 1997, a small funeral was held at Trinquetaille Cemetery in Arles, in the south of France. Its simplicity stood in stark contrast to the extraordinary life of the woman being laid to rest. There were no grand processions, no global spectacle, just a quiet gathering of locals, officials, and a handful of cameras. Yet the woman in that coffin had outlived generations, witnessed the rise and fall of centuries, and in her final years become one of the most famous individuals on earth. She was born before the Eiffel Tower was built, before the first car passed through her hometown, before electricity had reached most homes. In a world obsessed with youth, speed, and progress, her life unfolded at a completely different pace. She didn't just grow old, she outlasted time itself. But the question that still lingers is not simply how long she lived, but how she lived at all. I'm Alan Virtue, and this is Chasing Dexter. What followed that quiet burial was the end of a life that should not have been possible. Jeanne Calment lived for 122 years and 164 days, a span so vast it defies comprehension. She was born in 1875, before the first telephone call, before the motor car, before the Eiffel Tower even existed. By the time she died, the world had entered the internet age, and she didn't just live a long life. She became a living bridge between centuries. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about Jeanne Calment was not how long she lived, but how she lived. She never had a job, never chased urgency, never seemed in a hurry to become anything. Instead, she moved. She cycled through the streets of Arles well into her 90s, took up fencing at 85, and continued riding her bicycle until she was 100. Not for exercise, not because she was disciplined, just movement as a way of life. And then, well, there were her habits. By every modern medical standard, Jeanne Calment should not have lived past 70. She smoked for nearly a century. She drank port wine every evening. She ate chocolate, almost a kilogram a week. Not in secret, not with guilt, but openly, joyfully, habitually. She didn't chase longevity. She enjoyed life, and somehow life stayed. She wasn't just alive, she was sharp. At 13, she met Vincent van Gogh. History would remember him as a tortured genius. Jeanne remembered something else entirely. Ugly as a louse, badly dressed, and very disagreeable. And she even appeared in a film, Vincent and Me, at the age of 114, becoming the oldest actress in history. At 121, she recorded a music project. She didn't retreat from the modern world. She stayed in it, engaged with it, amused by it. At 90 years old, Jeanne made what seemed like a simple financial decision. She sold her apartment in a life annuity deal to a lawyer named André Francois Raffray. He would pay her a monthly pension of 2,500 francs, a significant sum at the time, and then he would inherit the property when she died. He was 47, she was 90. It seemed, well, a pretty safe bet. But Jeanne Calment had other plans. Unfortunately for Raffray, he died at the age of 77, 2 years before Jeanne passed away. And his family were obligated to continue paying her for the next 2 years. In total, they paid more than double the apartment's value. In Jeanne's response? C'est la vie. In life, one sometimes makes bad deals. Her life was not without tragedy. She outlived her daughter, Yvonne, who died of a lung disease in 1934 at the age of 36, and her grandson, Frederick, who died in a motorcycle accident in 1963, also at 36. Her husband, Ferdinand, died in 1942 at the age of 73, poisoned from eating preserved cherries that had gone bad. Yet she maintained a philosophy of radical acceptance. If you can't do anything about it, don't worry about it. Not denial, acceptance. A kind of emotional efficiency that protected her from a slow erosion of stress. This unflappable nature prevented the psychological toll of chronic anxiety, a lesson that remains painfully relevant in our high-stress modern environment. Jeanne Calment may have had exceptional genes, but she also had something else. A refusal to take life too seriously. She laughed often, dismissed worry, and treated aging not as decline, but as a privilege. Age is a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter, she once remarked. And she's not entirely alone. There are many others who embodied the same positive spirit. At 102, Irene O'Shea became the oldest woman to jump from a plane at 14,000 feet. At 100 years old, Dick Van Dyke still dances, still performs, still moves with joy. At 90, William Shatner travelled to space, becoming the oldest person ever to do so. And men like Kenton Brown and Juan Lopez Garcia continue to push physical and mental boundaries well into their 80s. Different lives, different paths, but a shared thread. They remain engaged, curious, unfinished. So what allowed Jeanne Calment to live for 122 years? Was it genetics, dive, luck, or something less measurable? A mindset that refused to age even as the body did. She once famously remarked that
La jeunesse est un état d'esprit. Elle ne dépend pas du physique. Je suis encore une jeune fille, c'est juste que je n'ai pas eu très bonne mine ces 70 dernières années.
Is this the true secret of living a long, happy and healthy life? Dexter Kruger possessed a very similar philosophy. In our next episode, we'll explore the roles genetics and stress play in determining how long we live and how well we live. But whatever the case, we can be quite sure that Jeanne Calment didn't follow the rules of longevity. She ignored them. She smoked, she drank, she laughed, she lived entirely on her own terms. And perhaps that's the lesson. Not that we should copy your life, but the longevity may not come from control, but how lightly we hold it. Because in a quiet cemetery in Ai, the longest life ever lived ended the same way they all do. Silently. If you found this video interesting, enjoyable, inspiring, please like and subscribe. And if you have topics you'd like me to explore, please let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to bring you both anecdotal and the latest research related to human longevity. I'll catch you soon in the next video. Bye for now.